In the previous video, I showed you how to deploy an Azure Machine Learning service using bicep scripts. In this video, I'm going to show you more about the compute resources that are available within Azure ML. There are various types of compute that you can use within AML. Okay, the first one is the compute instance. So this is a managed compute instance, more like your personal, VM that you can use for interactive development or even run your jobs as well. This is a single node machine, right? You can pick a different VM as a compute instance here. Okay. Then there is this compute cluster. This is again a managed compute cluster. You can specify the node size, the number of nodes that you can scale up to. So basically, this is like a horizontally scalable cluster that you can use for running your trading jobs. Okay. Then there is also this Kubernetes compute. So if you have a Kubernetes resource, Kubernetes cluster, right? So you can attach it and then use it for training or even for inference as well. And then there is the serverless compute offering, where the Microsoft manages, creates, and scales the compute, without your involvement there, right? So there's also this external compute. So basically, if you want to use external compute, for example, database clusters, right? So these are like Spark managed clusters. You can attach it as an external compute, and then you can use it for running your training jobs. Again, more like Spark jobs. That you can use to that you can use Azure Databricks for. Okay, so let's go to the Azure ML resource, right? As I was saying, right? So you have these different offerings, right? Compute instances, compute clusters. There are various ways to create these compute instances. I'm going to show you two ways. One is the the UI. So basically, if you have the right access, you can go in here, give a compute name. You can pick either a CPU or a GPU machine, again depending on your workload, and then within that particular VM type, you can select the node that you need, right? So I'm going to select the DS11B2, which comes with 2 cores, 14 GB RAM, and then 28 GB storage. Okay. When you see this, right, so you also see the available quota. So the available quota is at the subscription level. You can request for an increase in available quota if you reach the limit. You just need to open a Microsoft ticket for that. Okay. So let me select that, and then there's this auto shutdown feature, right? So basically, if you're not using the compute instance actively for 60 minutes, you have the ability to shut down this. You can change the time here. You can either increase or decrease the time, but by default it goes with the 60 minutes. As I said, right, so the compute instance is assigned to a particular user, right? So this is a personal workstation. You can't share the compute instance with anybody else. Okay. Again, you can create a compute instance for yourself, or you can also create a compute instance for another user. Okay. Again, single sign-on enabled. I'm not using the virtual network, but if you use your virtual network, you can also select the subnet that you want to use for deploying this compute instance. You also have an option to select no public IP. Since I'm just using a workspace with public network access enabled, right? So I'm not selecting that here. Okay. And then you can also bundle any kind of setup scripts with this compute instance creation. You can create tags as well, and then you can create the compute instance. Okay, it takes a minute or two for the compute instance to provision. In the meantime, I'll show you the other way of creating this compute instance, right? So what I did was I created a demo test user. Okay, within my tenant here, and then I gave this demo test user. I've assigned the Azure ML, the default, the built-in role, Azure ML data scientist role to this demo test user. Okay, I mean, usually you use security groups to manage access, but just for this demo, right? So I'm just using I'm directly assigning the role to the user. Okay. Currently, I'm using this user ID here. So I have the owner access at the subscription level, so I've got the elevated access. Okay. Anyway, so for this particular user, right, I'm going to create the compute instance using the bicep script, right? I think in my previous video, I said that you can also do a lot of operations using the public arm, right? That's exactly what I'm doing here, right? So basically, I'll create a compute instance for this demo test user using the bicep script. For this, you need the object ID, um, right? So let's go back to the VS Code. So what I did was I created this bicep script to provision a compute instance. Okay. So I have the parameters set. So I have the workspace name, which is the Azure ML workspace name, compute name, location, the region basically, the VM size, tenant ID. I'm pulling it from the subscription ID, and then the object ID, which is the user object ID that we need to provision. Right. I'm using the Microsoft Machine Learning Services workspace computes resource here with this API version. You need to pass the workspace name, compute name, so that it knows that this is the workspace that you want to create the compute instance in. The compute type as compute instance, location. I'm giving just a brief description here, the VM size, and then I'm going to assign this compute instance to that demo test user. Okay. So I've already, I also have this parameter file. So this is where I'm, specifying. Right? I'm using the AML tutorial workspace. I'm going to name the compute instance as demo user CI in the central US region. And then I'm using the DS3 V2 VM. Okay, and this is the object ID. So if you right, so 910A6, right. So this is the the user that I'm going to provision the compute instance for. Okay, so again, I'm using the AZ deployment group command here to run the bicep template, and then I'm passing the parameter file as well. Okay. So it's running. Let's go to the portal. All right. So the one that we created, using the UI, right? It already got created, and then our bicep script is running fine now, right? So it started creating the compute instance for the demo test user. Okay. So if you look at the assigned to, right? So basically, this particular compute instance is being assigned to the demo test user. Okay. All right. So the compute instance, right? As I said, this is like a personal workstation, right? You go to the authoring, notebook section, right? So basically, any user who has access to the Azure ML workspace, right? So you will have a folder created under the users folder. All of these files in this folder, are tied to the Azure files within the default storage account that you create that you use when you provision the Azure ML workspace. Okay, so let me create a sample notebook here. Let me just call it test. So as you can see, right, so this is a notebook interface. It comes with a set of pre-configured Jupyter kernels. Azure ML uses Conda environments extensively. So it does come with some pre-configured Conda environments and Jupyter kernels. Okay, you also have terminal access. Okay, so basically, it's activating, but basically you can see all the Conda environments that comes with this compute instance. Okay. Also, so basically each of these compute instance comes with a 120 GB OS disk. Okay, and then there is the the disk that comes with the temporary disk that comes with the the VM as well, right? So since we provisioned that particular VM, right? So it has a 28 GB disk. So that's what you're seeing here, right? Again, one thing that to keep in mind, right? So whenever you're running your workload, just make sure that you're not you're staying within the limits of this disk size, because once once you use the disk capacity, right? And if you don't have access to the terminal, you won't be able to restore a compute instance. Basically, it would go in an unusable state. Then you have to create a new compute instance. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so if you go to the compute instance, right? So basically, there are other ways to use these compute instances. You can also use like a Jupyter Lab, Jupyter, VS Code Web, VS Code Desktop as well. Okay, to do your development workflow. Okay, so basically, let me show you the Jupyter Lab just as an example, right? So it opens a Jupyter Lab, instance for me here. So I can go to my specific notebook and then do all the development work. Okay, so this is again the interactive workflow, right? Um, as you can see, right? So I'm able to create the compute instance. So basically, if I log in as the demo user, right? Um, Let me click on this again. So since so in this again in this incognito window, I logged in as the demo user. Okay, so I'm able to see the compute instance here, right? So if I go to the notebooks folder, so basically each user that has access to the workspace can also see the other user folders as well, because there's only one Azure Files account that is going to be used by all the users of this particular workspace. Okay, so I can also open that particular notebook. So the first time you use a compute instance, you need to log in. You need to enable that SSO here, and then basically you can use it for your development. All right. So there's also compute clusters, as I was saying, right? So basically, you can create a compute cluster within the region. Again, you can select a CPU, GPU, the node size, and then you can also specify the minimum number of nodes that you require, maximum number of nodes, the ideal number of seconds before you scale it down. If you can also enable the virtual network again, right? As well as you can assign a managed identity as well, right? So if you want to use a managed identity, you can either assign a system assigned or a user assigned managed identity to this compute cluster. Okay. The same thing applies for the compute instance as well. So if you go to the compute instance, right? So basically, you see the compute instance software version, right? So basically, this is a managed compute, meaning there is a shared responsibility, right? So just make sure that you're always on the latest version, right? To have the latest version, you need to create a new compute instance. There's no other way to update the OS version here, like without recreating the compute instance. Okay. Um, Basically, even for this compute instance, you can assign a system or user assigned managed identity, and then you can use it to connect with any of external services. If you want to leverage that. Okay. Then there is also VS Code Desktop. So let me click on that. So what it does is it opens the VS Code instance. Okay. So you can establish a remote connection, as you can see, right? And now it's opening the a remote connection. So basically, I can use my local machine, but use the Azure ML compute instance for development, right? So I can just use the Visual Studio Code IDE for all of my development workflow. Okay. So now in this VS Code, right, remote session, I'm just going to click inside the folders. So as you could see, right, so you have access to use the Azure ML compute instance as your compute from your local VS Code, right? You also have access to the terminal, so sorry. So you have access to use the terminal, create your compute instance. You can use your Jupyter notebooks and whatnot from VS Code. So this is what you can use for your development workflow, right? So yeah, in this video, right? So what you have seen is the the compute resource within Azure ML. And I just showed you how to create the compute instance, and then how to use the notebook and the VS Code, for your development needs. Thanks for watching.